Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me. We're just going to wait 1 or 2 minutes to let everyone pour in. Good to see some familiar faces and some new faces. Selena, thank you for joining. Karen, nice to see you. Teresa, thank you for being here with me. I see Jesse and Kira. Good afternoon. I'm tuning in from a lovely day in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I hope you guys, everyone, wherever you are having a lovely day as I am here. Finally, after a very treacherous winter. So nice. So I appreciate you being inside on a computer to join me here today. Or maybe you're coming in from your phone. Either way, I'm really happy to have you here with me. I've got some more people just joining. We're just going to take a couple minutes to let everyone come in. Jamie, thank you for joining us. Good afternoon or good morning, depending on what time zone you're in. Just give it a couple more minutes. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining. My name is Rebecca. I will be your host today, and I am the CEO and co-founder of Studeo. We're going to be talking about the slowdown a lot of people are facing right now, listings staying on market, and how do we address this and help speed things up. Oh, we've got some people from all over. St. Louis, Tuscan, Arizona, Quebec. Thank you everyone for joining me today. And please, as you join, share where you're coming from. Because this is a problem that people are experiencing everywhere across North America. So I'm happy to share all these insights. Okay, one more minute and we'll get started. Thank you for your patience. Okay. Hi, Mark. Thanks for joining. We're just about to get started. You're just in time. So welcome to today's webinar, Beat the Slowdown. This is about understanding very specific tactics on how to slash your days on market by 30%. Like I mentioned a few minutes ago, this is not a unique problem to your market. This is a problem that is happening across the board, across both Canada and the United States. It's a very common problem. We're now in a buyer's market, and this is a real issue that agents are facing right now. And so I'd like to share with you insights. I have the unique perspective of working with agents across the country and learning on how some people are actually able to counteract what's going on in the economy and actually improve the days on market. And I want to share that all with you today. Okay. So, just a quick introduction to myself. This is not really about me, but I am the CEO and co founder of an interactive storytelling platform called Studio. And we sell to top performing agents, brokerages, teams. I've been 15 years in the strategic marketing leadership space. We've been focused on real estate for over a decade, been in business since 2014. So we've seen the ups and downs, the changes that have happened. We've lived through it all. And like I said, we have the unique perspective of working with top agents across the country. And so we can see how different tactics work in different markets and what are the commonalities that things are people that of tactics and strategies people are doing that have real impact. And so it's really my pleasure to be here today to share that with you because I know how challenging it is right now. So the agenda of today, what we're going to go over is we're going to talk about the market challenge, why properties are sitting on market, what are some of the leading things that we're seeing that people are doing or not doing that's impacting this, what our sell fast formula actually is, what we've learned from everybody, and putting it all together into this is the playbook. If you are going to really analyze what you're doing right now, go through this with me. Think about workshop this on your own while I'm going through this to think about the listings you have that are sitting right now and what can you do about it to make things go faster and perform better. We do have a special offer, so stay with me throughout the presentation to just for you, special offer for joining me today. So I'd love to share that with you. And of course, I'm happy to answer any questions anyone has at the end. If you can just hold your questions till the end, it will just make sure that I don't interrupt my thought flow and I can get through my presentation in a timely fashion, and then happy to answer all of your questions. So what is this the market challenge right now? So for those of you who've been in business at least for 5 or 6 years, if not longer, if you go back to 2021, 2022, things looked very differently. You could put a listing on the MLS, let it sit there for 48 hours, and it was sold, right? Take some good photos, put it online. You're gonna have, if you're in a seller's market, you're gonna have enough demand that the property just sells itself. And that changed. And now we're sitting in almost the inverse situation. Days on market have almost doubled in the last year. Price reductions are almost double than they were a year ago. And this is becoming a problem. It's not just one market, this is happening across the board. And there are risks to having your listings sit on market. It's not just about your cash flow because you're sitting there planning for something to move in a certain amount of time and you're relying on that cash in order to feed your business. I totally understand how your business works. And you need that cash flow in order to keep sustaining operations. Not only are you going to get unhappy sellers and it's going to affect your relationship, but and obviously the risk of losing the listing and having it expire, and we are seeing that happen more and more often. It's very rare for that to happen previously, but that risk is increasing. But I really want to talk about reputation as well, because it's not just the relationship with the seller. It's not just that this business is so heavily reliant on referrals, and if that listing expires, or if you have to drop the price too many times, it affects your relationship and therefore you don't get the referral. But think about all the people right now who are looking to list in your market, who are considering you. And if they're in a price category that you list at and they look at your listings and they go, this person actually is not figuring out how to move listings and they just drop the price 3 times, I'm not sure I'm going to work with that person. So you may not even know that that's happening, but it will affect the consideration of listing with you and actually choosing you as their realtor, when previously they would have actually wanted to have a conversation and wanted you to go in for a listing presentation. So having listings sit on market are not good for business. And so let's talk about all the ways in which we can impact days on market. And again, think about the ones that are sitting on market right now, and let's see if we can kind of analyze what's going on and take action to make things better. So why do properties sit on the market? Obviously, when you are in a buyer's market, there is more homes on the market and buyer demand goes lower across the board. But there's a lot that we see that realtors are kind of misstepping on that are easy to correct. So number one, pricing strategy. 72% of sold listings aren't priced strategically. And that doesn't mean that you didn't do your research. It doesn't mean that you didn't compare it against other properties in the market, but it is a strategic way in which you can price things and work with your seller and have a plan so that you don't have to keep price dropping, but you can use dropping the price a little bit in order to expand on your buyer pool. And I'll talk about that a bit later. Poor presentation. So no, and this seems like an obvious one, but quality media has a direct impact, not just on perceived value, but on time on market. And I'll talk about kind of just the de facto, what you need to do now for every listing that you do. Um, Ineffective distribution. So obviously the number of eyeballs who actually know that your listing is on market is really, really important. It's estimated that 30% of agents only post on Zillow and send out postcards, and that's all they do. And what you don't realize is that when you launch that property, that's your first big opportunity to get as many eyeballs on it as you can. But if that's all you do, it just kind of will sit there and stall. If you didn't get enough at that beginning and you don't have a strategy to keep getting eyeballs onto your listing so that more people know that it's listed, that you're getting it in front of the right buyers, it's going to sit. And then this is a little bit more advanced, but a lot of people don't know how to kind of understand who their buyer target is and actually go after the specific demographics that are aligned to the best aligned to your particular property, and making sure that your communications and your content is all geared and hyper relevant to those buyer segments. So these are some things that are very actionable and have nothing to do necessarily with the market conditions. These are something that you can actually take action on. So let's go through the sell fast formula. Number one, property launch is really, really important. You got to put your best foot forward right out of the gate. That is your, first impressions make a really big difference. And that's first impressions on your property. That's when you're going to get the most amount of attention is right out of the gate. So you need to make sure you're doing it right from the beginning. Then it's about strategic pricing. We're going to go into detail on that. Then we're going to talk about story selling and using storytelling to package the way in which you're communicating around your listings so that it actually aligns to how people dream about their next stage of life, that you're not just pushing out features. And I'm going to go a little bit into buyer segmentation and how to actually target and align that communication and content towards very specific targeted demographics of buyers that you think are going to be best aligned to your property. Next is multi-channel marketing. That's about distribution. How many channels are you using and cross selling across different channels in order to get the largest number of people seeing your listing and activating them in order to increase the amount of interest so that you bring them to the open house, which is the final stage of things, is that the open house is getting that close, it's getting people bought into the actual experience of that home. And how do you actually run an open house? What extra things that you can do that maybe you're not thinking about that are really effective for a lot of other people. So we're going to go through each of these items. Okay, so number one, launch with a bang. Like I said, this is your opportunity, your first big opportunity to get in front of as many people as you possibly can. And what's really important about that is if you don't launch with a bang and you launch with a whimper, it kind of goes downhill from there. And it's really hard to recover from that because you really then have to go and do everything all over again and basically relaunch. And you don't want to have to do that. That's expensive, it's time consuming, and it just delays things. So the first thing to do is when you're prepping your marketing strategy and your pricing strategy, and I'm sure a lot of you already know this and do this, but you want to make sure that you are evaluating against the hyper local market conditions. What are other properties selling for in the same category? Are you comparing, the demographic of people are looking at those other listings compared to the one that you have? How are those other listings performing? Get a sense for that. Price strategize with your seller. And what that means is have a conversation with them in advance and say, I hear what you want to price it at. We're going to go with that, but here's what's going to happen. We're going to go and do all of this stuff for your listing. This is going to have the biggest impact. But if we start seeing that we're not getting in front of enough buyers, we're going to have a strategy on how to reduce it, not by too much, but in a way that's to open up the market. So the goal here is not to just drop the price. The goal here is to open up the market to be able to access more buyers. You want to upfront identify the right buyer segments. What are the demographics of those buyers? What is their lifestyle? Who are they? And why are they moving? And we're going to go more into detail on that. But getting that identification upfront means that you can then prep all the work you're going to do around your communication, around your photography, and around all your media in alignment with that strategy. And obviously identify key selling points, what makes that home unique, but don't just focus on the home, focus on the community as well, because they really come together, and people moving into a home are moving also into a community, and they're factoring both things into that decision. And a lot of people sometimes will lead with community first, especially if they find that the particular neighborhood or property type will attract people from out of market, maybe out of state, even maybe foreign interest. And so the community actually becomes more important than the property itself when you are communicating to people who aren't from around there. Okay, so let's talk about phase two, which is about the visual impact of the launch. And I know we have a lot of luxury examples here listed, but this is really for every property that you do. This is not just critical for luxury properties. This is critical for every property. And this is a real change because not everyone's used to doing this level of quality and media for every property that they do, but that is what is required right now if you want to push your properties to move faster on market. So number one, staging. I don't think I have to state that. You probably all know how important staging is, but if you can't stage with professional staging and furniture, at least put the effort into staging with the seller's furniture and declutter and depersonalize that space. It is so important that the personal belongings are not present, at least in the photography. Very, very, very important. And I see that too often, that there are cluttered photos, right? So maybe the photos, you invest in great photography, but that seller's stuff is still in there. And it really does detract from someone being able to imagine themselves into that space. Next is doing professional HDR photography. Don't go in with your phone. Don't take corner photos where you don't know what you're looking at. You need to take wide shots. You need to take shots that really demonstrate and showcase the space really well. What's great about HDR, if you're not familiar with it, although it's been around a long time, so most of you probably are, it allows you to show indoor and outdoor lighting. And so you get details of the exterior as well as the interior from that photograph. You may not know this, but investing in 3D walkthroughs or video actually can improve perceived value and can actually improve days on market by up to 30%. It really has an impact. The more different types of media that you have, that you keep someone's attention longer. They have more things to look at. They get a better understanding of what that space is. And then finally, storybooks, and this is an example of what you're seeing on screen, are a way of packaging that all together into a story. And why that matters is that it creates context and meaning when you actually design the story in the right way to explain why this all matters, why somebody would want to move here. And you're not just like putting a dump of photos and expecting someone to understand what everything is from reading a paragraph, right? So too often I see on single property websites or virtual tours, it's like a dump of photos, then you watch the video, and then you just read all this text, and it's not connected. And we're, as humans, to understand the content that we're looking at, it needs to be in context. And so having words match the photos and help explain them, having someone walk through the property as an experience in a logical fashion, as if they're walking through the home, and then also being able to explain the community as well, all in one experience. That is what storytelling is really about. And that's why storybooks can be so powerful. And I'll talk more about that. Next is pricing it right. So strategic pricing is key because it's not just going, okay, we priced it too high, we got to drop it. What if you drop the price, what it's actually doing is expanding the buyer pool. And so if somebody is, if there's 100 people who are searching for properties over 500,000 and you price at 505, but then there's 5,000 people who are searching for properties under 500, that those 5,000 people are not going to even, it's not even going to show up in their search because they've limited their search, they've capped it. But if you just go slightly under that at like 499, you're not only dropping it a little bit, but now you're opening up your buyer pool to access and more eyeballs. The goal here is to get as many eyeballs as you possibly can on looking at this. And so this is a conversation to have upfront with your seller. You can start a little bit higher, and then if you're not seeing enough attention, enough visibility, you can open up the buyer pool by going just kind of to the next tier down. And if you're doing all of that investment in marketing, in the media, and packaging it, you've got, a distribution strategy, and you got a good relationship with your seller. If you have that conversation up front, it's way easier to manage down the road than if you're then having the conversation when it stops moving. And if you didn't invest in those things up front, then the seller goes, they're less they're less likely to agree to it because they think it's something that you're doing versus the reality of the situation and needing to open up more eyeballs. And so if they understand that up front, it's way easier to manage down the road. Okay, so let's go a little bit more advanced into segmentation and story selling. And so story selling is really important. And like I said before, is because it packages the information. If you think about all the photographs and all the video and the Matterport tour that you create and all the text that you write, that's all information. It's just different types of information in different media formats, but it's information. And information can be up for interpretation. What you can do when you package it as a publication, as a story, as a storybook, that creates that meaning and context that layers on, and you're designing the information in a way that can be better understood. And not just better understood, but emotionally understood. So somebody is really understanding what something feels like, and they start imagining their life in it. So you want to start asking yourself when you're thinking about how you're communicating around the property to tell the lifestyle story. What is the lifestyle here that we're selling? Not just all the features of the property or all the listing off all the schools in the neighborhood. What kind of person is going to want to live here, and how is their life changing as a result of where they are right now and what they're coming to? And so that's really the why, not the what. So why is this property special? Why is it unique? If someone were to look at this one and 3 others in the same neighborhood, what makes this one stand out? And how do you focus in on those special features? Similarly, on the community front, what makes this community special? What makes the lifestyle of this special? An urban setting is going to be very different than a suburban setting. One community is very different from the community next door. So what differentiates it? What is unique? Why would someone want to choose to live in that place? And then when you communicate it, it's got to be hyper visual, right? Before they come in person, you need to make it feel tangible and and evoke their imagination to get them excited, because people will come see it when their emotions are evoked, not just their rational brain. You want also their heart, right? The more you can get people's heart invested, the more people are going to show up to the open house. And so using the online space to make it hyper visual, interactive, engaging is really, really critical. The next layer to this is about targeted buyer segmentation. So we talked about this a little bit at the beginning, but this is about identifying buyer personas. So, and you don't really want more than 3. 2 is actually ideal. And you want to say, okay, who is most likely to move to this community? Who's most likely to want a property like this? What are their demographics? What stage of life are they in? Where are they living now? And why are they moving? And what are they going to care about the most? Because that's what shapes the story, so that you make it hyper relevant and enable them to go feel understood, and then go, yeah, that is who I am, and that is what I want. And that again is going to drive up the investment, their heart invested into that property, and more people who have their heart invested are going to come see it. And the more volume of people that come see it, the more likely you're going to get an offer sooner. One thing you can do now that you're thinking about story selling and using something like a storybook to present and package all that media is you can actually create different stories for each type of buyer. So now you're hyper targeting, making it hyper relevant what you're communicating to the specific type of individual. I'm going to show you some examples. So the first example I want to show you here is, this is luxury. I'm going to show you a regular property as well. Like I said, this is not just for luxury, but this will kind of drive home the point, is you want to make this an emotional experience, and you want to bring it to life. You want someone to feel what it is like to live here. And I love this example, because every time I look at it, I'm like, oh, I just want to be in that space. I just want to look out at that ocean, and I want to feel the serenity of what it's like to be in this like beautiful, quiet environment where I get that kind of scenery. That's very different than talking to me about what the floors are made out of. Not to say that those features aren't important. They matter, right? And a lot of those features help justify, the price point. But at the same time, it is the lifestyle, and it's someone getting invested in that lifestyle is what's going to drive up the price even more, right? It's all about perceived value and whether somebody really wants something. And so making it a little bit more human, bringing in media elements that humanize the space, really helps to kind of elevate that experience. I can show you an example here um, that is of just a regular property, regular suburban home, same idea, right? And this is a way also you can bring all those media elements together. You don't have to choose between the Matterport link and all the photographs and the slideshows that you're creating. Not sure why that's not loading. Should load. Let me see if I can come back. Oh, there we go. Right? You can embed it right into the experience. You're telling a fuller story. You're making it interactive. You're bringing all that investment you're making on really high quality media. You're bringing it into an experience that keeps people really engaged and thinking about your listing specifically. And so it's not just about bedrooms and baths and square footage. It's, you're moving from the city, into a suburban area. You want more space for your kids to grow up in. You want to feel like you're in a safe environment. You want a beautiful backyard. You can have summer barbecues. We just came out of Memorial Day weekend, right, where everyone gets together. There's a lot of people who are sitting there going, I really wish I had my own space to host, right? Who would be great, who's now thinking about wanting to move and going, you know what, I think it's time. I think it's time that we got ourselves some more space and we were able to host our friends and family instead of always going to someone else's house because we don't have a backyard. When it comes to segmentation, you can highlight specific demographics. So if you're showing, people, and this is actually really good as a takeaway even after the open house, because people want something to walk away with, and as much content that you can give them that is specifically relevant and geared to them. They want to see themselves in it, right? So you can have different pieces of content specifically for those people to take away with. If you are a young family moving in to a suburban home, it's very different than somebody perhaps who's downsizing or looking for a place to retire in that's quiet and peaceful. They're going to have a completely different orientation to the reason for moving, and you want to make sure that they're feeling represented and understood. And a lot of agents who I see are very, very successful are really good at speaking to very specific demographics. And they even hear from their customers, don't show me stuff that's relevant to somebody who's just starting their life out. For example, if they're targeting an older demographic, they want to know that you understand them and their specific unique situation and their problems, because that's why they're hiring you. Okay, so now you've got your media and you've got your packaging and you've got your stories, and you need now to make sure that you are blasting this out to the world. And so there's some obvious things that you do. I'm sure you're already doing a lot of this, but I'm going to just go through the list of all these different things that you can do that are really critical. And having multiple communication points and getting the word out is actually really, really important today. It's not enough just to post an MLS, let it syndicate, and hope that enough people see it. It's a continued effort to get eyeballs onto your listing because, like I said, it really starts to decline after that initial launch. So if you didn't get the volume you needed right after launch within a few days of launching, you need to keep at it, getting the word out there. You can't just let it sit and wait. You can't wait for buyers to come. So obviously, MLS and syndication, it's very strange, but I have often seen like people will post on realtor.com and it's not on Zillow. You got to make sure that some people are just going to Zillow, some people are just going to Realtor, some people are just going to Trulia. You want to make sure that you're going after as many people as you can. If your property has international appeal, make sure you're getting on those networks. Make sure that you're getting in front of enough people. Social media organic posting is also really good, but depending on what platform you're using most, it could limit you. So organic posting, for example, on Facebook is limited literally to your followers or like your friends, and it won't show to everybody. Facebook's very limiting because they want you to pay. They want you to buy ads. Um, X and TikTok and LinkedIn are also good. They'll actually have a wider distribution than Facebook, just in case you were aware. When it comes to which one you choose, you got to understand where your buyers go, right? If you're targeting an older demographic, you don't go to TikTok. But if you're targeting a professional, if maybe it's a higher end home, maybe you're targeting lawyers and doctors and professionals, you go to LinkedIn, right? So depending on where you believe that your buyers are, that's where you want to invest in and make sure that you have a presence, but you can elevate that through paid social targeted advertising. And actually what's really amazing about that, and I'm seeing more and more agents adopt this, um, it allows you to precisely target specific buyer demographics. And so if you know that your neighborhood, like there's a lot of people from a different state that actually consider moving to your particular neighborhood in your state, you can actually target that state or those communities and say, come check out this listing. And so it becomes very, very effective, and it opens up your reach. Where Facebook limits you if you're just organically posting to your wall to your friends, as soon as you start paying Facebook, all of a sudden they allow you to open up and target a wider group of people. Now, be aware that there are rules around promoting listings, and you just need to make sure that you're informed so that you are adhering to their guidelines in order to do that. Email marketing, extremely effective, um, both in terms of emailing your database. It's so important also why having a CRM and developing a database of people that you can communicate with regularly. That is a very, very effective of distributing your listing, letting everyone in your network know about it and say, please share it with anyone else that you think would be relevant, and having really, really impactful presentation around that listing is going to help that move. But you also want to tap into buyer agent networks. There are services out there that offer that, and allows you to email out to a network of agents that are representing buyers so that you can get that in front of them as well. Print advertising is not dead. There's definitely a role for that, but just make sure you're targeting and being strategic about it. Don't just kind of spray and pray. Go, think about what areas would have people who would be most likely to want to move into the community and into the type of property that you've got listed. SEM is really cool. I've seen some really good success with it, but it's a lead with location type of strategy first. And so where I'm seeing a lot of success is so SEM is search engine marketing. And what that means is, when you search on Google and then there's paid advertising at the top, sponsored, that's essentially you're paying against certain keywords. Where this gets very impactful is where you target the community specifically first. You're not promoting the listing, you're promoting the community. You make sure that you're telling an amazing story about it. You get people going, yeah, I think this is the right community for me. And now you bring them into a conversation saying, well, why don't I show you some properties that are in this community, in this area, and now you've got a conversation going, and you can bring them in and have them see the property. Okay, we're almost at the end of the sell fast formula, and let's talk about the open house. So I'm sure you all run open houses. This is nothing new. Open houses are a huge opportunity. I'm going to share things that I just know are working really well. And this is just for you to take as much away as you can. If you're already doing this, great. If there's things that I can add here and you can walk away and implement them right now, even better. So first of all, not enough people are actually taking advantage of virtual open houses. I saw a lot during COVID, and it was more adopted during COVID. And then as people came back into the world and we were more in person, they started to die off, but they can be very, very successful, especially in getting pre-interest in order to get them to the in-person meeting at the actual open house themselves. So it's a lesser commitment to coming in person. It can be pre-scheduled, so you can have a Zoom meeting, or you can even host live events on social platforms like Facebook Live, for example. What this does is it can create hype. You can create a higher volume of people who are interested in getting more information beyond what you've shared online, being able to interact with you and ask you questions. And you can help activate people that were maybe passively looking, who are now more active, and you can have an interaction with them. And it's a way to draw them into that in-person open house. So it could be a precursor. It is also really nice way of being able to target people who aren't in state, whether they're out of country, whether they're in a different state, or maybe they just have a busy life and they don't always have time to go look, but they are really interested. This actually could move them along that journey, so it's a convenient way in which they can get more information. It's also a very important opportunity for you to get feedback, because you can get an idea how people are reacting to the listing, what questions that they have. It can help change the way in which you're communicating, maybe that there's something that people are noticing about that property that they love that you didn't even consider. And then you can go and adjust your communications, your media, your story, the way you're describing it, to start targeting the things that people are really interested in. And always having a takeaway and a call to action is really important. So everyone who attends these events, make sure that you're sharing a URL, like for example, to the Storybook. And in the Storybook, there's a call to action, book an appointment with us today. They've already given you their information. So now you can communicate with them because of the open house the virtual open house, they've given their info. And then designing the in-person experience, it's all about standing out at this point and being memorable, right? When people are scheduling, as you know, a whole day of showings, it can go by in a blur. And by the end of the day, they're like, I think I remember that property. I think it was similar to that other one. Like now you're relying on people's memories. We're all overwhelmed in general in our lives, so our memories are pretty short. So anything you can do to add an extra touch to that open house. These are obvious ones, but making sure that the blinds are up and the curtains are open and the light is in there. Bring in flowers or snacks, like you put a display of food, something that's going to stand out as an experience and as an experience compared to other things that they've seen. Having print and digital takeaways are really important. I see actually a lot of success of people putting a tablet display up at the kind of in the foyer with key highlights and then a QR code that people can scan so they can take away the digital experience about the property they saw. Again, this is about standing out and being memorable and continuing to be memorable after they have the experience. The other thing that you can do is also profile the neighborhood. It's not just the property. Again, you're selling the neighborhood and the lifestyle. People are putting QR codes up on their lawn signs so that people walking by can scan, get more information, then book an appointment. And as much as you can, follow up with the buying agents, ask them as many questions as they're willing to answer, try and get as much feedback as you possibly can. So that is our self-ask formula. I hope you've learned something today. Hope I've given you some little tidbits or something that you can take action on that's going to help you move your listing. If you're going to actually look at what you have on market today and you are to critically look at what you're doing, because at the end of the day, we're all on the same page here. We all want to help you move this faster, avoid the reputational damage, get the cash flow, keep your business growing. Um, which of these things could you put more attention on? Is it the quality of media? Did you have that pricing conversation with your seller up front and was really strategic about it? Are you using storytelling? Are you story selling? Are you just, talking about the features of the property? You're treating the media like information rather than packaging it in a more human, emotional way that gets people really drawn in. Are you distributing it correctly? Are you putting it out there in as many places as you possibly can? Are you learning how to do new distribution channels? Because it's really important. And are you running the open house in a way that's going to be memorable? And so answer the poll. Thank you very much. This is really just for your own benefit, but also helps us to understand where people can use more support. And I really appreciate you participating in that. Just give you a moment. Okay, thank you so much. And so where can we help? Well, what Studio does, what I showed you, those storybooks, story selling, that is really where we bring in our expertise. We've been in this business a long time. We come from really diverse backgrounds to make a platform like this accessible and scalable. And our goal here is really to make the buyers coming and looking at your listings, fall in love really and wanting to take action. That's what we're really good at. And we're here to make it really easy for you. So we've designed, we're uniquely in the market offering what we call storybooks. It's infused with AI to make it really scalable and automated. We have an autopilot service layer essentially that creates the storybooks for you. And we know how busy you are. We know that being able to differentiate what you're doing, but without the effort is really, really important. And that's why we have this autopilot service layer. And it essentially means that the second that your listing goes online, we're able to automatically create that for you and send you the storybooks automatically. And you just have it and you can start using it immediately. We also have the ability to generate hyper-local content without you having to send a photographer out there into the world. It's quite amazing. We'd love to show you more of it, but we essentially can generate visuals of your location that's very specific and quite spectacular without having to invest in additional photography. And we've got lots of pre-made storybooks of all kinds of topics and content that you can use to help activate your sphere of influence and generate more listings and promote yourself. So there's a lot of value here. And I did mention there's an offer at the beginning of the webinar. When you access the full Studio platform, we're offering you 50% off the autopilot service layer, which is $750 of free value that you would get. And that's the automated layer where we'll automatically produce storybooks for you about your listings that go live. We'll automatically post to your social feeds to keep you top of mind. You get the hyper local content that's specific to your neighborhood. So it's a lot of value in here. I highly recommend, if this is something that you think we can add value to your business, help differentiate you, help differentiate your listings, please reach out, book a session with us. This is just an offering for the people here attending this webinar. So that's my presentation. I'm happy to answer questions. I'm just going to go over here to the chat. 1 second, because I've been talking a lot, but there's some questions in here. So distribution. Okay, so someone asked, distribution depends on your MLS distribution. Yes, but you do have the power to distribute on social across different social platforms. And there are platforms that you can submit independently of the syndication. So make sure that you are doing everything you can to get into all the platforms and getting your listings out there as much as you can. So you can email them out to email groups. You can run ad campaigns on them on different social platforms. You can make sure that people are getting in front of your listings, even if your particular MLS isn't syndicating to all the different platforms. So storybooks, someone's asking about this distribution of storybooks. So this is the storybooks themselves are they're just like websites. So they're a URL that you can post everywhere. We give you an unbranded version that you can post on your MLS so that there's no branding at all and it's completely compliant. And you replace your virtual tour with the storybook. The storybook can then also be posted on social. We give you little kind of embed graphics that you can send out over email to improve your click-through rate on your email campaign. So you really can share, you can connect them to QR codes so that you really can share them pretty much everywhere. We will send out the link again. I think the link was shared. Teresa, if you can, yeah, we just reposted the link. If you're interested in talking further about storybooks and hop on a one-on-one so you can learn more about what we do and how we can help you.
Becca, I did want to jump on. There was
Sure.
a couple of questions that they were in the questions tab. We have another question from Mercy who asked if this can also be loaded in the Zillow Listings Showcase.
If Zillow Listing Showcase allows you to post a URL or a virtual tour link, then yes.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
And then Nene asked, where do we promote virtual open houses?
So you can basically promoting virtual open houses. I would send out an email campaign. I would post on your social. Basically everywhere you can use social also to paid advertising to promote virtual open houses as well. And make sure then that if you're doing that, you're promoting and you're talking about the community as much as you're talking about the listing itself. So when you plan out your live meeting, and you go in and you advertise to get as many people interested in that community as possible, make sure that you're talking about both things at those virtual open houses. So whether you're promoting, like, all the places that are outside the syndication network are opportunities for you to promote. So your network over email, sending it to buyers network over email, the agent buyer network, whether you are posting organically on social or running an ad campaign to drive people to a virtual open house, all of those things can advertise an open house. Did I get all the questions? I think. We're almost at time. I think we went a little bit over, but I'm happy to answer any more questions that I might have missed. I'm just looking through the chat. I think I've gotten everything. I really appreciate everyone joining me today. I hope this was valuable. And we're looking forward to any one-on-one conversations that you're interested in having with us. It'd be our pleasure to talk further. Just make sure you're grabbing that link that we shared with you before we end the call. Yes. So sharing the last question, sharing the storybook with the world. So it's a URL. So wherever you can post a URL, you can share a storybook. You can email it. You can post on social. You can run paid social campaigns on it. You can connect to search engine marketing ads that you post on Google, for example. You can share storybooks on the MLS. We provide you an unbranded version. They also can link to QR codes, so you can use them as digital takeaways at virtual open houses as well as in-person open houses. We see agents put their digital storybook on a tablet in the foyer when people come in person. They add a QR code, so they scan them to take away that storybook with them. We do have a mobile optimized version. You put QR code on your lawn sign. Pretty much, if you send a postcard run, make sure there's a QR code that for a more elaborate interactive experience where you can learn more about the neighborhood and the property itself. All of those are ways in which you can share the storybook with the world. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me today. Hope to see you next time.